Most people who want to start raising animals at home always hear the same thing. Start with chickens. It's easy, they provide eggs, and everyone else is doing it too. And yes, chickens are indeed reliable. No one is saying they aren't. But here lies an uncomfortable truth for many. Chickens are not the most productive choice, nor are they the most profitable, especially if you only have limited space, like a small yard, patio, garage, or a corner in the back of the property. When space is tight, the common choice is almost never the most optimal one, because true value doesn't lie in raising what everyone else raises. True value lies in choosing animals that can do more work for you. Animals that are capable of producing more food per square meter, that convert feed into protein more efficiently, that require fewer resources, that can start quickly, and that can even generate income even on a small plot of land. And this is where many people go wrong. They compare animals only by how much food they produce, but don't look at the entire system. They don't look at the time until the first yield, feed costs, noise, smell, ease of cleaning, disease risk, daily workload, and very importantly, whether the product is sold cheaply or sold as something special. In this video, I will show you 5 animals that, in real-world situations with limited space, can outperform chickens in terms of efficiency. 5 livestock animals that most people overlook but could transform your yard, garden, and wallet. Do you want to produce your own food and be less dependent on the system? Subscribe and hit the notification bell. Here we break down practical knowledge, what really works, what doesn't, and why. Now we start with animal number 1, and I'm telling you from the start, this one will surprise you because it's small, quiet, fast, and when calculated carefully, usually wins hands down in tight spaces. Animal number 1, quail. Most people don't even consider them, thinking quail are for industrial farming or feeling they aren't suitable for home raising. But if you're just starting and your space is limited, quail can be the smartest decision. Yes, because quail offer 3 very valuable advantages for a small yard: speed, production density, and minimal neighbor disturbance. Let's discuss them one by one. A female quail in good condition can produce about 250 to 300 eggs per year. But the most important thing isn't just how many eggs are produced, but when they start laying. Quail usually start laying eggs at 6 to 8 weeks of age. Compare that to chickens, which generally need to wait 5 to 6 months to start. In practice, that means you can see a return on your investment faster with fewer weeks of non-productive expenses. Now let's talk about space. People hear about raising poultry and imagine large chicken coops, fences, and a lot of mess. But with quail, the system can be compact and concise. A group of 10 birds can be housed in a small area. If there is ventilation, shade, and cleanliness, this system can be run on a terrace, garage, or a sheltered corner, as long as cleanliness and welfare are maintained. And there is one determining factor in real life: noise. Quail are much quieter. You don't have to deal with rooster drama at dawn and don't have to deal with annoyed neighbors in urban or suburban areas. This difference can be the main reason that allows you to keep farming safely and without issues. In a small space, quietness isn't just a convenience. It's part of the sustainability of the system itself. The resulting product also occupies a different position. Quail eggs are often seen as something more special, whether for pickling, premium packaging, restaurants, or specific diets. Because of that, the price is often better than regular eggs. If they can be sold for more per dozen, your margins increase without multiplying the workload. And there is still the optimization side: feed consumption. A quail eats very little, usually around 20 to 30 grams of feed per day, depending on how they are kept. With a low cost per bird, the yield per square meter is very impressive. Therefore, if your goal is to start fast and then grow despite limited space, quail are one of the choices that are very hard to beat. In a few weeks, the quail are already laying eggs, and in one season, you can move from a small group toward much more serious production, as long as the system remains simple, stable, and clean. To make it work well, think of 3 main controls: complete feed, clean water, and ventilation. Keep the cage floor dry, avoid excessive heat, and reduce stress, because all of that can lower egg production. In quail, small disturbances are often quickly reflected in the results. So daily consistency is much more important then late major changes. If you want a more detailed calculation, just calculate the cost per egg. Daily feed multiplied by price, then divided by the number of weekly eggs. That way you can compare quail and chickens based on your own real market, not just estimates. If you live in a city, check local regulations and also talk to your neighbors. Preventing conflict is often far more valuable than any profit margin. Animal number 2, rabbits. Rabbits silently solve a problem that almost everyone feels in their wallet. Meat is expensive, and not everyone has the space to raise large animals. Well-managed rabbits are one of the most efficient ways to convert feed into protein in a small space. Where does the real optimization lie? It's in two things: conversion and cycle. First, conversion. In daily practice, rabbits are usually able to convert feed into meat with an efficiency level that is very competitive compared to larger animals. Translated to backyard conditions, it means you need less time to get back the capital you've spent. If you buy feed today, you don't have to wait half a year to see results. With rabbits, results can come in a matter of weeks because their growth is fast and their size makes the system more compact. Second, the cycle. A breeding doe can reproduce quite often if managed correctly. Good feed, adequate rest periods, health control, and appropriate temperatures. Baby rabbits also grow fast. In a few weeks, they move from birth to near harvest weight much faster than larger animals. To put it in simple language, from plan to dinner table, rabbits can be a project of less than 3 months per cycle, and this changes everything for a family. You don't have to depend on one big meat purchase. Instead, you can create a small, stable, and controlled supply stream. You can even start simply: a basic, well-ventilated structure that's easy to clean and a pair of high-quality breeding stock. In addition, rabbits also provide two additional results that are often forgotten. The first is lean meat, sought after by people who are more health conscious for its high protein and lower fat content. In many families, this is not just about taste, but also about food choices that feel lighter for routine consumption. The second is their manure, which if managed correctly becomes a very useful material for gardens and compost because it helps restore soil fertility. The most common mistake is wanting to expand too quickly before truly mastering the basics of care, ventilation, shade, cleanliness, protection from predators, and a clear feed plan. One more thing often ignored is the daily work rhythm. A system that looks small can still feel heavy if the workflow is not organized from the start. Optimization doesn't mean raising many. Optimization means raising a few, doing it right, measuring the results, and then growing. Animal number 3, bees. Bees solve a problem that many people rarely realize at first. How do you create value without having to work every day? Because a healthy bee colony is basically like a self-running system. You don't feed them like poultry every morning. You also don't clean cages every day. What you do is manage, inspect, prevent problems, and harvest at the right time. In good conditions, one colony can produce a significant amount of honey in a year. And besides that, you can also get wax, propolis, or pollen depending on the environment and how it's managed. But the biggest optimization isn't just in the honey. Even bigger is the pollination in gardens and fruit trees. Good pollination can increase fruit set, harvest size, and quality uniformity. In other words, bees can increase your crop production while still producing high-value products. In a small system, this means a lot because one type of livestock doesn't just provide one result, but also strengthens the results of other parts of the garden. And here's the smart part for a small yard: time. One colony does not demand your presence every day. During the active season, inspections every 2 or 3 weeks are often enough for many small systems. And outside of the season, the work required drops significantly. Because of that, when you start to scale up, the jump isn't too heavy. Taking care of 10 colonies doesn't mean 10 times more work than taking care of one, because the protocols remain the same. But it must be remembered, bees are not toys. You need to learn the basics of safety, consider allergies, respect neighbors, and check local rules. True optimization in beekeeping is doing it responsibly. The right location, available water, shade when needed, health control, and harvesting without stressing the colony. If your goal is a combination of extra income, a more productive garden, and a lighter daily workload, Very few livestock can rival bees. Animal number 4, ducks. Ducks solve two problems that can be very big in a garden: pests and high egg prices at certain times. Most people choose chickens out of habit, but ducks can outperform chickens in very practical ways if you look at the whole system. First, the eggs. Duck eggs are usually larger, with creamier and richer yolks. And in many markets, the price can be better because bakers and pastry chefs seek them for specific batters and recipes. This means you have one simple advantage. You aren't selling a generic product at the lowest price. Often you are selling something considered more special. Second, production stability. Depending on the breed and management, some ducks are able to maintain production better during seasons when chickens start to decline. For a family, this is very important because there are fewer months without eggs. But the duck's greatest strength isn't the eggs. The duck's greatest strength is pest control. Ducks eat slugs, snails, insects, and many other pests that silently damage your garden. And here is where a big difference compared to chickens appears. Chickens like to scratch and scavenge, and they can damage roots and garden beds, especially if released in a tight and densely planted area. Meanwhile, ducks usually step more softly among plants, and if managed correctly, they can help suppress damage without destroying your garden. Therefore, for people with a garden, ducks are a form of double optimization. You produce food while reducing losses. Fewer pests mean more harvest, and more harvest means more food or more money that isn't just lost. Additionally, ducks also tend to be more resistant to humidity and some respiratory issues that often appear in poorly ventilated chicken coops. In a small system, a difference like this is very noticeable because just one health problem can immediately break the production rhythm. Fewer diseases mean lower costs, and lower costs mean less of a mental burden. And no, you don't need a lake. With a simple water tub or plastic pool and regular water changes, you can already maintain a well-functioning system. The key lies in water management so that odors don't arise and cleanliness is maintained. Water that isn't well managed quickly turns the advantage of ducks into a source of trouble. That's where the difference lies between ducks being a problem and ducks being a solution. Animal number 5, goats. Goats solve three problems at once: expensive milk, messy land, and a lack of diverse income sources. For a small rural space or a plot of land that isn't too large but can still be managed, goats are one of the most versatile animals you can raise. Because goats are able to turn something that is usually just a burden into production output. And that is exactly where the great value lies. One animal can work on more than one side of the household system. First, milk. A dairy goat that is well fed and properly cared for can provide several liters of milk every day during lactation. And that means a stable source of food that is constantly available for the family. If there's a market in your area, goat milk is also often sold at a higher price than regular milk because many people look for it for digestion or personal preference. But the greatest value is almost always in the derived products. 1 liter of milk processed into cheese, yogurt, or other homemade products can double or triple its value. This is the logic that always applies. Raw materials have low value compared to final products that have higher margins, and goats open several doors at once from just one animal. This means you don't just depend on one way to generate value. Second, land clearing. Goats eat weeds, brush, and wild plants that, if there were no goats, you would have to cut yourself or pay someone to clean. So instead of spending money to clear land, you turn that clearing process into milk and, depending on your system, also into meat. That is real optimization, turning maintenance work into production output. What usually just takes time and effort, in the right system can turn into something that gives a return. Third, reproduction. With good management, goat kids can be additional income, especially if you use good breeding stock and your local market values good genetics or healthy animals. This isn't money that comes automatically, but it remains an additional source that people often don't count when comparing one animal to another. Yet in the medium term, it's often details like this that distinguish a system that just runs from a system that is truly profitable. But there is one thing about goats that is non-negotiable: fencing and a feed plan. If your fence is bad, the goats will show you immediately. And if you don't plan for forage or supplementary feed well, productivity will drop. Optimization with goats doesn't mean raising many. Optimization means raising a few with enough space, shade, water, health management, and a system you can still run without exhausting yourself. And now here is the most important idea of this whole video. Don't try to raise everything at once. Choose just one animal and master it for a year. Such an approach will turn you into someone who truly understands. Learn the signs of health, cycles, real costs, and the best time to sell or utilize them. That way, the next decision is no longer based on momentary excitement, but on proven experience. Only after that should you add a second animal with confidence and a more stable income. Choose the animal that best fits your space, your time, and your local market. Give it full attention until one cycle is complete, then expand. This is how to build truly real independence. If these insights change the way you look at the potential of small land around you, please subscribe and like this channel. We are digging into practical knowledge that is often overlooked to build solid food independence. Let's plant the future together. Our next valuable guide will be open for you soon. Write in the comments which one makes the most sense to you. Quail, rabbits, bees, ducks, or goats. See you later.